Chapter 15, Struggle for Freedom of India. The term India's independence movement encompasses a wide range of areas like political organizations, philosophies, and movements, which had the common aim to ending the company rule India East India Company and then British imperial authority in parts of South Asia. The independence movement saw various national and regional campaigns, agitations, and efforts, and some non-violent movements, and so on. So basically, Indian independence movement was something that started, and then there were many movements, such as some movements were violent and some were non-violent. During the first quarter of the 19th century, Raja Ram Mohan Roy introduced modern education to India, and Swami Vivekananda was the chief architect who profoundly projected the Indian culture to the West at the end of 19th century. And many of the country's political leaders during 19th and 20th century were included Mahatma Gandhi, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, and there was Swami Vivekananda. Indian National Congress achieved limited successes in these early years, and the early leaders of the Congress were known as moderates. They believed in asking the British government for reforms rather than, just struggling and just posing up fights and, doing revolutions and stuff like that. They really believed that, they should get into a conversation with the Indian government, with the English government, and hence they were known as moderates. Their values were moderates. Their way of working was moderate. There was another group within the Congress. They were known as radicals and they wanted to oppose the British rulers strongly. And they were people like Lala Lajpat Rai, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Bipin Chandra Pal, and so on. And it was Tilak who once said, Swaraj is my birthright and I shall have it. Bengal partition in July 1904, Lord Curzon, the Viceroy and Governor General, ordered the partition of Bengal supposedly for improvements in efficacy in the huge and populous region. It also had justifications due to increasing conflicts between Muslims and dominant Hindu regimes in Bengal. However, the Indians viewed the partition as an attempt by the British to disrupt the growing national movement in Bengal. Bengal partition. In July 1905, Lord Curzon, the Viceroy and Governor General, ordered the partition of Bengal supposedly for improvements efficacy in the huge and populous region. It also had the justifications due to increasing conflicts between Muslim and dominant Hindu regimes in Bengal. However, the Indians viewed the partition as an attempt by the British to disrupt the growing national movement in Bengal and divide the Hindus and Muslims of the region. The Bengali Hindu intelligently exerted considerable influence on local and national politics. The partition outraged Bengalis. Not only had the government failed to consult Indian public opinion, but the action appeared to reflect the British resolve to divide and rule. Widespread agitation ensued in the streets and in the press, and the Congress advocated boycotting British products under the banner of Swadeshi. During this time, Bengali Hindu nationalists began writing virulent newspaper articles and were charged with sedition. We had revolutionaries. There were some great Indian leaders who believed that freedom should be gained soon. They believed that the only way to get freedom was to fight the British with bombs and weapons. These people were known as revolutionaries. Khudiram Bose, a young boy of 15 years, was a well known revolutionary and was hanged by the British government. As the freedom movement became very strong, even the people who lived outside the India, they started getting connected with these freedom movements. Madame Kama went to Geneva and published a paper called Mataram. Narendranath Chattopadhyay formed the association in Berlin for freeing India, and the Ghadar party was formed with the Indians settled in America. In the meantime, the First World War broke out in 1914. Many Indians helped the British government in this war. They believed that the British would give freedom to India after the war. But their hope came to an end when the British announced only a few reforms. These reforms were completely unsatisfactory for the Indian people. To add to already growing discontent among the people, the British government made very strict and cruel laws. According to one such law, Indians could be put in jail without trial. The cause widespread indignation, which the government repressed with brutal measures. It was around this time that the Mahatma Gandhi joined the national movement and soon became the leader of the freedom struggle. तो यहाँ पर हम ये देख रहे हैं कि बहुत सारे लड़ाइयाँ हो रही हैं, बहुत सारे लोग जो हैं ब्रिटिश गवर्नमेंट के खिलाफ आवाज़ें उठा रहे हैं और बाहर जाके भी बहुत सारे लोग अलग अलग तरीके के रेवोल्यूशंस कर रहे हैं ताकि हमारे देश को आज़ादी मिले. So, the points to remember is during the first quarter of the 19th century, Raja Ram Mohan Roy introduced modern education into India. The British followed the policy of divide and rule. The Swadeshi and boycott movements were launched in protest against the partition of Bengal, and Bengal was reunited in 1911. That's all for this chapter, students. I will see you in the next chapter. Thank you so much.